Thank you once again, and I would like to welcome everyone, and on behalf of the CHP, we're grateful for your attendance today while we honor Sergeant Licon. I would like to recognize several distinguished guests who are in attendance: the CHP Riverside Area personnel, CHP Commissioner Sean Durree, Deputy Commissioner Troy Lucas, Assistant Commissioner Cito Ortiz, Inland Division Commander Chief Dan Miner, Assistant Chiefs Kerry Clark, Tim Noyes, John Tyler, Jesse Holguin, and Sean Coyle, California Association of Highway Patrolmen President Rick Lebeski, Caltrans District 8 Director Catalillo Pining III, California State Senator Kelly Sayarto, representatives from California Senator Richard Roth's office, Assemblymember Marie Waldron's office, Assemblymember Bill Assaley's office, Riverside County Supervisor Karen Spiegel, Lake Elsinore Mayor Natasha Johnson, Lake Elsinore City Council members, and Lake Elsinore City Manager Jason Simpson. I'd also like to recognize Riverside County District Attorney Michael Hestrin, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, Riverside Police Department Chief Larry Gonzalez, Corona Police Department Chief Bob Newman, Cal Fire Chief Bill Weiser, Deputy Chief Jeff Vike, and Division Chief Lonnie Olson. This day would not be possible if it wasn't for our generous sponsors and supporters: the City of Lake Elsinore, Ralph Mesa of the Emergency Services Department, the CHP 1199 Foundation, the CHP, Jill Alves with the CHP Credit Union, and the California Department of Transportation. Now I would like to welcome our guests of honor, the Licon family, Ann Licon, daughter Marissa Licon, fiance CHP Officer Juan Guillen, Steve's sister Sonia, and the entire Licon family. We also remember Steve's son Nathan and father Lawrence. It truly is an honor to be here with you today. At this time, I would like to invite to the podium CHP Chaplain Janet Engler, who will deliver today's invocation.
Good morning. Would you take a moment to bow your head, please, with me? Our gracious Lord, Almighty God, our Father, I take a moment to acknowledge you this afternoon. We thank you for the life you give and for your gracious offer of eternal life. We are grateful for your presence and that we are never beyond the reach of your love. Thank you for your abundant blessings toward us. All we have and all we are comes from you. Give us faith to know that you care about us and our every need. Father, as we join together for this memorial dedication, we ask for your blessing upon the event. Today we formally honor a fallen comrade, a peer, and a friend, Sergeant Steve Licon. Steve was an upstanding member of the California Highway Patrol. He was dedicated, he was loyal to his career, he served with honor. And ultimately, he gave his all in that service. Steve was also a giver to his family. He loved them. Unquestionably, he was committed to making their lives happy. Steve also lived a life that gave evidence of his love for you. It is with grateful hearts that we pause to reflect upon his life and give him the honor of the day that he so richly deserves. This ceremony tugs at the heartstrings of many, for sorrow is stirred anew. Grief still prods the soul, and the loss remains painful. Continue to strengthen his family as you've done in the past. Surround them with your love and compassion. Let them be aware of your never-failing presence in their lives. I also pray for officers that are currently serving the department, for they too are givers and servers. May they honor Steve's legacy and others who have given their all by serving with humility and professionalism. Give them the courage to face the perils they encounter, and grant them a sense of your abiding presence and peace. Surround them with your protection. Father, let your blessings and peace rest upon this service and in our hearts. And it is in your precious name that we pray. Amen. Thank you.
I now would like to invite Steve's daughter, Marissa Licon, to the podium.
Good afternoon. I would first like to thank everyone for taking time out of your day to be here. To be honest, I can't tell you much about my dad's life before the CHP. When I was born in 1997, he was already in the department. What I can tell you is a little bit of how it was growing up with my dad. I always knew my dad loved his job because he loved to incorporate elements of his career into our home life. One of his favorite games to play on car rides would be for me to look for violations, and he would get to say the vehicle code for it. That was his idea of fun. When I was asked to do chores, like clean my room or wash cars, he would ask me, "Is it ready for inspection?" and perform a thorough inspection of my work. If it wasn't done right, I would be asked to do it again. Everything was always a competition, whether at work or at home, riding our motorcycles, walking back to the car, bringing the trash cans up the driveway, and I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of him challenging officers to see who could write the most tickets. I knew he loved writing tickets, and he always let me and my mom know when he pulled over our neighbors or my old teachers, and yes, he would write them. When I was in elementary school, almost every year he would come to my class to talk about his career and bring his motor and a car so that my classmates could take pictures in it. I loved my dad being in the California Highway Patrol, and I always felt safe. What I didn't love is that he pulled me over twice. First time was for his own enjoyment. He saw me on my way to soccer practice and pulled in behind me with lights on. I knew it was him, so I wasn't going to pull over, and took him on a small pursuit. He finally told me over the speaker to pull over. He came up to my window laughing, asking if I seriously wasn't going to pull over. I was crying and told him I knew it was him, and why would he do that? That's so embarrassing. When he would leave for work, my mom and I would go outside and say goodbye to him. And as he was riding away, he'd wave and flash his lights every time. For those of you who don't know, my younger brother passed away in 2012. He had a chromosome disorder that caused him to not be able to see, hear, eat, walk, or speak, and he had over 100 seizures a day. At his funeral, my dad spoke words that resonate with me today. He said how when Nathan was born, he was angry and questioned God on why he would make a child like this. He was angry at God's plan because it wasn't his plan. But that one day God spoke to him, telling him Nathan was exactly the way he wanted him. Here's an excerpt from his speech at the funeral. As a young boy, I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I grew up. I wanted to be a policeman and ride a motorcycle. More specifically, be a CHP motor officer. I was driven and I wasn't sure why. God had a plan that he wasn't letting me know about. He wanted me to have a good job. When I joined the CHP, I had no idea about the CHP family, the excellent health benefits, or the 1199 Foundation, but apparently God knew. The CHP would become a blessing for me and my family. That job I got with CHP had a connection with the 1199 Foundation. They bought us a silver van with a lift. That van allowed Ann to go to soccer games, doctors, and to take Nathan to school. Reflecting on my dad's words years later, I can't tell you that I'll ever understand why the events of April 6, 2019 unfolded the way they did, but I do believe, just like my dad said, God had a plan, and it was to use this tragedy for good. He had plans that he wasn't letting us know about, and I can look back now and reflect on some of those blessings. To start, it put into perspective what is important. My family started to make sure we put family first and made spending time with each other a priority. This proved to be a huge blessing as we spent a lot of time with my dad's parents. Unexpectedly, we lost my grandma in 2021 and my grandpa just this August. I can look back and say I'm thankful that the experience of losing my dad granted me a gift of spending more time with them. My dad was the leader of our household, and we all relied on him heavily for pretty much everything. My mom found her own strength while she was learning to navigate life without her spouse. She took the home and yard work of our 3-acre property head on and will spend days pulling weeds, mowing the lawn, and trimming trees. My siblings and I had to draw the line, though, when she said she wanted a chainsaw. She used to take care of my dad. He would get home from work, sit in his chair, turn on the TV, put a pillow on his lap, and my mom would bring his dinner right to the pillow. I used to roll my eyes. My mom has put that energy into us children and her 2 granddaughters. She never misses their school or sporting events, and now I walk down to my breakfast made and set out every morning. As for myself, I could never decide what I wanted to do as a career. That drove my dad insane. He would ask me, how did I not know? He knew what he wanted to be from the time he was a little boy. After his death, I immediately knew I wanted a career in which I worked closely with law enforcement and decided to pursue forensics. The 1199 Foundation again stepped in for our family and awarded me a Fallen Hero Scholarship, which allowed me to attend California Baptist University, where I graduated with my bachelor's in forensic chemistry. I now work at a private forensic DNA lab. My boyfriend at the time, Juan, now my fiance, decided to join the CHP after witnessing how the department took care of my family after my dad's passing. He also wanted to serve the public and get as many drunk drivers off the road he could to save families from the same pain. He graduated from the academy in December of 2022 and now works out of the Santa Ana office, the same office my dad broke in at. On the way to the academy, we looked at the story of each CHP Memorial Highway sign that we passed. My cousin Chase, the son of my dad's sister Sonia, has also expressed wanting to follow in his father's and uncle's footsteps and become a CHP officer, and he is currently obtaining his degree in criminal justice. We have been blessed to form relationships with officers and families like ours with the law enforcement officer death, like Andre Moyes' family. Andre was killed just 4 months after my dad. 2 on-duty deaths from the same office so close was a shock. Again, God had a plan to use this for good. Our families were able to connect and understand exactly what each other was going through. Andre is buried at the same cemetery as my dad and just a short walk away. Our families make sure to stop at both boys' graves when we are there and joke about how they're on the racetrack in heaven. In closing, my family and I are honored to be here to celebrate the highway dedication. My dad would have loved that we are all gathered to celebrate him and that there's going to be a big sign on the highway with his name, seriously. When he would be interviewed on the news, he'd call my mom right away to make sure she taped every channel he might be on just so he could watch himself later. Today, I don't want us to reflect on the sadness of April 6th, but to reflect on the blessings that have emerged because of it. My dad said the CHP would become a blessing for his family, and those words reign true. The CHP continues to bless our family to this day. When I was little, I loved that my dad was a California Highway Patrolman, and today I feel honored to have had a dad who was a California Highway Patrolman. From my family and I, thank you to everyone who has made today possible, ensuring that my dad's sacrifice will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. I now would like to invite California Association of Highway Patrolmen President Rick Lebeski to the podium.
Good morning. I'm honored to be here today, and I'd like to start by saying thank you to the Licon family, Ann, Marissa, Stephen, and Kelly, for allowing me to speak at such a prestigious event honoring Sergeant Steve Licon. It gives me happiness to know that Steve is amongst great company above us with his parents and their son Nathan watching all of this. April 6th, 2019 was an extremely tragic day for us all, but even more tragic for the Licon family. We're not here to be sad. We are here to honor Steve with a memorial sign that will be placed on Interstate 15, a sign honoring Steve that will be passed by hundreds of millions of motorists for decades and decades to come. Although the purpose of that sign is to honor our hero, Sergeant Steve Licon, I want that sign to serve as a reminder to all the men and women of the California Highway Patrol the dangers of the job that you do day in and day out. Sergeant Steve Licon and the Licon family know that ultimate sacrifice all too well. Lay down my life rather than swerve from the path of duty. But like I said, we are not here to be sad, because that is not what Steve would want. I know in my heart that Steve is looking down on his beautiful family every day, and I know Steve wants the best for each one of you. Steve left this world, but did not leave without leaving his mark, his legacy, and teaching his family how to be happy and how to love. Steve was a great husband, father, family man, and friend to many people. I want that sign to serve as a reminder to all of that. The best way we could honor him would be to continue to be how he taught you all to be. To continue to be happy like he taught you. To look up and smile every day rather than cry. Life will continue to throw us roadblocks, struggles, and challenges. Life isn't easy, but when times get tough, get tougher and keep going. When we get knocked down, get up and keep going. That is what Steve would want, and that is what Steve taught. That is how we can honor Steve and make him proud, because again, that is what he would want us all to do. That sign will stand proudly for the rest of our lives, and I'm honored to be a part of this day. Thank you, Ann. God bless you, your family, and God bless you, Steve.
I now would like to invite California Highway Patrol Commissioner Sean Durree to the podium.
Thank you. Good morning. It is an honor and very humbled to be here. Commissioner Lucas, Commissioner Ortiz, we consider it an honor to be here. And Marissa, thank you for the invitation just to share a few remarks. And I'm just so amazed of your strength. And it's not our first time meeting. And I've always been just impressed with your personality, with your character, with your strength. And I believe that's a testament. The father and the husband that you're blessed with. So I want to take a minute and just express gratitude to some of those that have been here to make this day a possibility. First, Assemblymember Waldron, who ran the resolution, and the other members of the legislature, some represented here today, that made this a possibility to name the freeway after Steve. The CHP, represented by several members of the board of directors. Thank you. Thank you. You guys financially support it, and you shepherd it through the legislative process, and to that we express our gratitude. Caltrans will erect the sign. One of the family members while we were out there said they just drove by and they didn't see it, and then they came back by and it was up. They won't only erect it, but they'll maintain it for generations to come. So to them, we say thank you. And then to the Riverside Squad and Inland Division, Chief Minor, Captain Branconier, thank you for all the work that went on behind the scenes to make this possible. What a great venue as we come today to celebrate and honor Steve. I didn't know Steve, but I feel like I know Steve. And as I was preparing for this, I thought a couple times, what would Steve say? Personally, I believe he's a part of this. I know Steve was a man of faith, and I believe that he is up there with his squad, and he's looking down on us. What would he say? What would he say to us? If he was like any motor sergeant that I knew, or that I was, I know what he would have said to the two guys that had the one job to unveil the sign out on the freeway. Those of you that weren't there, they took him about, 5 minutes to pull this tarp off the sign. Steve would have been like, you have one job. Let's get it done. We're here to honor him. Steve honorably served the people of California for 29 years. As a sergeant, he was known for no nonsense. He was known for being a man's man. In fact, Steve had a picture of his hero, I'm told, above his cubicle, John Wayne. Yes. John Wayne, as you know, played the tough guy in the movies, never backing down from a fight. This is a quote from John Wayne. I quote, "I want to play a real man in all my films, and I define manhood simply. Men should be tough, fair, and courageous, never petty, never looking for a fight, but never backing down from one either." Close quote. Steve didn't want to play a real man in the movie. Steve played a real man in real life. He was a real man. The only thing, and I think Steve would agree with this, that would have made John Wayne tougher is trade in that silly horse for a CHP motorcycle. That would have made John Wayne a tough guy. How do we know Steve was a real man? Steve honored and he loved his family. There is evidence of that all around us today. Steve was a family man that stood for what he believed in. Steve, as I mentioned, was a man of faith, and he was not afraid to voice that to others. Steve was a motor. He was a motor sergeant. He led from the front. He would never ask someone to do something he wasn't willing to do himself. In fact, not many sergeants will go out and outright their officers in citations. Steve would do that day in and day out. I'm told he would often supervise the division special enforcement team. And at the end of briefing, Steve had something he liked to say. He would say, "Regulators, mount up." This quote, "Regulators, mount up," I had to do some research to figure out exactly where that came from. And it's one of two things. I'm going to ask Ann to help us narrow it down. There's two things that could have came from. The phrase, first option, the phrase "regulators mount up" is a reference to a popular rap song, Regulate. You don't know. Let me finish. Let me finish. It's a popular rap song by Warren G featuring Nate Dogg. If you go and look that up, Nate Dogg has 2 G's. The lyrics of the song talk about 2 friends, Warren G and Nate Dogg. They're out regulating the streets late at night. It's become an iconic phrase among hip-hop fans. What do you think? Was that? No. Option 2, the phrase comes from the 1988 movie Young Guns. This may be more of Steve's genre, which featured Emilio Estevez and Kiefer Sutherland as 2 young outlaws who were part of a gang of cowboys and gunfighters called Regulators. In the movie, they used the phrase, "Regulators, mount up," while preparing to fight off a group of bandits. What do you think? The second one? All right. Steve would probably say, "Yeah, no duh, huh?" Yeah. Oh, he did? Whichever place he got it. Some of you may still be going the hip-hop route. Regulators mount up usually means that it's time to take action against injustice or fight for what is right. It can also be used to show solidarity with others who are fighting for their rights or taking a stand against injustice. Steve wasn't just talk, he lived his life as a regulator. He believed in standing up for what's right and defending those who couldn't defend himself. So from today on, this little portion of southbound I-15 south of Lake Street in Lake Elsinore will forever be known as the Steven Licon Memorial Freeway. The sign naming of this portion of the freeway will serve as a reminder for all those who pass it of the sacrifice of this good man, this regulator. And not just Steve's sacrifice, but your sacrifice, and the family's sacrifice, and the sacrifice of his squad. I hope that generations will pass it like you did. I love what you said, Marissa, how you were looking them up on the way up. I hope generations will pass long after all of us have moved on, and kids will ask their parents, "Who's that Steven Licon?" They probably pronounce it wrong, but who is that Steven Licon? I hope they take the time to look it up. And if they do, they'll find a good man that served the people of California with honor. To the active members of the California Highway Patrol and those of us that are in law enforcement, thank you for our partners for being here today and honoring Steve. This sign is a reminder. That is not how we will honor Steve. We will honor Steve by being good men and women, by being honorable men and women, and going out and doing what Steve did every day and doing what others are unable to do. and regulate, and be those people that stand up for injustice and fight for those that can't defend themselves. That's how we will honor Steve. The sign will be a token that will spark a memory, but we honor Steve through our actions. So what would Steve say? I don't think he would say, regulators mount up today. I think he would say, I love you. I think that's what he would say. And he said that every day, whether you were part of his squad or part of his family, through, I would imagine, words, and then to us through his actions. So thank you, Steve, for the example you set for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I now would like to invite California Senator Kelly Sayarto and Assemblymember Marie Waldron's Field Representative Corey Uden and Ann and Marissa Licon to the podium for the presentation of the resolution.
You guys come on up. So this morning we're honored to be able to be here today and express our appreciation to the service of Steve Licon and his family. And there are no words that we can ever come up with. Plenty of words have been spoken today, and those are great. But the state legislature is eternally grateful for the service of our public safety people, our law enforcement community, and also the CHP. As many people don't know, the CHP protects us up in the Capitol. They are charged with keeping us safe. But in our communities, they're charged with keeping all of us safe. And I've never had to be on the business end of a meeting with Officer Licon. I always went about 5 miles an hour slower than everybody else so that he would try to ease his day. But one of the things that we can do as a legislature is and it does take an act of the legislature to do it, we can name sections of freeways after the fallen. And in that way, we honor them by reminding people every day, as they said, hundreds of thousands of cars drive up the freeway or down the freeway every day. And we'll see his name and we'll remember his service to our community. And so with that, on behalf of Assemblymember Marie Waldron, who was the initial author of this resolution, it takes 3.5 years, and we have to go through the process with Caltrans to get it permitted and all that. But anyway, we have this resolution from the Assembly that enabled that to be done, and it does recognize all of Steve's achievement over his years. And I hope you can display this proudly and know that we are eternally grateful for his service. And you're funny, by the way.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you very much.
I think we got our picture.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We just want to add, on behalf of Assemblymember Marie Waldron, what an honor it was to carry this resolution on behalf of one of the finest to ever wear the uniform. As you know, as the family, every day could be the last day that you're out there protecting us. And so we want to thank you for your service and your sacrifice. And we hope that this is a small token of gratitude for all the years of service that he gave to the CHP. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Corey. At this time, I ask Ann and Marissa to head back to the second sign. And if I can have everyone have your attention to the back for the unveiling of the freeway sign honoring Sergeant Steve Licon. And whenever you are ready. I now would like to welcome California Highway Patrol Officer Guillermo Ruvalcaba to the stage to honor Sergeant Steve Licon with a rendition of Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. It was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, there's no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see.